Um, so then we're on.
Yes.
So
Right.
darling, yes, today is the day of questions and answers. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to start just blabbing. You know me. I mean, whatever you as you decide. Any question? Nancy has a question. Nancy, where are you? Yeah, darling, did you want to ask your question?
I'm looking for her. Wait. Oh, here she is. I've done.
Said that the great perspective was utopia, right?
Yes.
And my question is that perhaps you could elaborate on that a little? And what would it look like on a daily basis to someone who's a divine living it, knowing, consciously living it? And also, what would a day look like if they weren't conscious?
If they were not?
Well, if they were kind of asleep to it.
Oh, well, I think that no, I don't know, but I think that maybe we'll start with what it will look like if we are in it.
Okay.
So anyway, so then you started the question by making the affirmation that the utopia, the great perspective is utopia. Yeah, so then we all understand what we're saying, that let's go back a little bit from the great perspective then, so then we can go back to utopia. The great perspective, as we know, is the new consciousness and the 10 dimensions of life. And it's the whole scenario of consciousness that express the unity, what we call unity in motion, the unity of life. And the great perspective, as we send you in the paper, has two different halves. Actually, they are three, but through different halves. The first half is the perspective that corresponds to our daily living, the world in which we have all grown up and have been, the ancient world that we have been. And then the other half of the great perspective is the universal consciousness that we have access now for the first time. But it's something, the universal consciousness is something that we are just beginning to become acquainted with it, because it's much larger than the consciousness that we have experienced as humans in the planet. And in our humanity and the planet, most of us are constantly repairing things, trying to understand the new and dealing with every single moment within our lives. And the universal is much more larger and is involved mostly in the greater concepts that houses our intelligence, in which we no longer are in any aspect dealing with anything that has to do with duality, but that we are connected to life in a moment-to-moment interaction that is brilliant because it's totally creative and facilitates every single answer to any single question that we have. It's a world in which we are not only experience our sense of self in its fullest sense, but also we are experience the cosmic sense of self, which I said is this larger perspective in which our nervous system have access to it. Remember that in the whole perspective, the nervous system have access now to the futuristic whole unfolding of our human consciousness in relation to the cosmic. So we are all beginning to experience that, because this greater consciousness is what allows us to really experience the magic within every day in our human consciousness. So we don't get so much enrolled in the details that before were constantly enrolling us in relation to drama, situations, circumstances, places in which we innocently return to the idea, oh my God, what's happening now? So now all that, oh my God, what's happening now is, oh, I see, something is changing, and being in the presence of the solution of what that is, instead of being in the reaction of what that is. So our reaction is going away from us. So the great perspective, in that sense, is a whole scenario within ourselves, and is, as Nancy said, utopia. It's utopia because every single thing that we see during the day is actually from the perspective of the new world, in which we are the change and transformation of it. So we are in an extraordinary creative state of being that allow us to be synchronized with life, because life is 100% creative. Life is unfolding with creation. So it exists in the eternal moment because it is the moment of existence. It's not the moment of existence that unites the moment of time and the moment of universal existence. So I use the word the moment of existence because it is atomic. It's before our awareness. It's before we recognize what it means or what we do or how we feel. It's the actual moment in which we are alive as humans, and it's the moment that conceals a whole scenario that is atomic and its perfection. It's utopia in that sense because it lives in the dimension of eternal existence. And what I mean by that, it lives in the dimension that everything is perfect, everything is divine, everything exists in the Garden of Eden, where we talk about it. Everything exists in the perfection of it. And then from that sense of being, everything that seems to be uncomfortable, confused, problems, everything gets resolved inside of that state, because that particular connection to utopia and the great perspective concealed within itself the know-how to in relation to ourselves. So we repair it in the moment by becoming present and be able to stay connected to that reality, and then everything that needs to be resolved will be resolved. It will be repaired because we will be connected to the solution of it instantaneously, and then you will be able to know what that is. It will be repaired because it does it. The divine and the divine translator does it for us. So it's another form of attunement that it has to do with living in the present moment, and it has to do with the recognition that our consciousness functions in an enormous, large state of awareness, perception, attunement, and that we are all inside of that field now. This field doesn't require any effort. And not said, oh my God, I need to be in this place. It's who we really are. It's the natural correspondence to ourselves and the natural correspondence to the existence that we call life. So we are in eternity. Remember that I use the word eternity all the time, and then we're in eternal time. What it means to be in eternity or an eternal time, it means that we are simultaneous with everything, and we are in a constant state of continuity and evenness. We're in the realms of balance, that which always has been pursued from the beginning of time in our evolutionary consciousness. Remember that every time from the beginning of our evolutionary consciousness, I think we were always searching for balance. Then in the latest years of our life, you understand that balance became like a wonderful word. Not too much of this, not too much of that, balance, equalizing of the opposites and so forth. So that was a vision to what we're pursuing. But now we live in the realms of balance. It's not based anymore and too much of this and too much of that. It's actually the center of life itself. So we exist in love, in life, we live in balance, and balance is the natural center, the natural connection to life and ourselves. So we are in eternal existence. So the great perspective function in the dimension of eternal existence. It is utopia because it is supreme idealism. I think I'll have it here that I said to you, the definition. Utopia, supreme idealism reunited with the physical moment of our human lives. So just sometimes it will be lovely that I think you have this definition, but it will be lovely to see that we have utopia, and then we have this explanation: supreme idealism reunited with a physical moment of our human life. Look, all those words that we have to say in some degree to give meaning to utopia that is actually happening instantaneously in the moments of our lives. So one of the complexities that we have in our human language, in our humanity, since it was developed through dualism, that we need to books and an enormous amount of words to be able to explain something that is already occurring in every single moment. So we are always in delay explaining something in order to capture the very thing that is occurring. So utopia is the moment of your existence, the moment of your life, the moment of your consciousness, what we call the eternal moment, the moment in which the physical body is every single moment transmuted and transforming itself and renewing itself. It's the moment of light. The 10 dimensions, all of it is occurring in the present moment. So it's good for us to spend time sometimes just in the contemplation, like a phrase, and how the phrase is the explanation of the meaning. And then you transform the time of those words and you allow the mind to comprehend that it occurs as a simultaneous event. So utopia is the simultaneous event of our lives. Life itself, it is eternal. It's idealism because it's no longer divided into the stages of different interpretations of duality. It's the perfection that we are, that we always have been, and it's the natural existence of our being. So every single moment of our life, we can be in utopia. You get up in the morning, the first thing in the morning, when you open your eyes, you're already in utopia. So if you spend a second just finding that you're in utopia, if you need a word to take you outside of the sometimes of the dream state that we can awaken, so we can start the day in the renewal that is already occurring atomically as life. Because remember that in humans, we in our humanity, we're still innocently carrying a lot of stories from our daily day or from the past or from tradition. So we can sometimes get up in the morning and the first thing I said, okay, I need to get my breakfast, I need to do this, and blah, 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 blah. So if you can just begin to spend 1 second to remember that you are in the renewal, your whole day is going to be a renewal, that you are connecting to the system, like you're telling me us to connect to Zoom and press this and press that. They said, okay, now I'm connecting to the new system. So you get up in the morning and then you, by that instantaneous awareness, you will be able to see your day in a more immediate state of connection to. So when that happens, what's going to happen to you, like when you start making your breakfast, you're going to notice that, oh, I need to move this here, or this is beautiful. The moment will come to show you what it is to be simultaneous with it. And it will show you that everything that you're looking for is already in front of you. And then if you see it, then you can acknowledge and say, thank you, whatever. Just acknowledge momentarily that you are perceiving that the very thing that surfaces in your mind is also that which you're looking at. So this is a good way to start recognizing that. Then utopia means that every single moment you are the creation and the transformation of everything. So in every situation, either in the phone or with the people who are in your home, or even with your own thoughts, remember that you are recreating the world anew every single moment. So begin to really become aware that being present and being in the great perspective or in the eternal moment, it means that you are with creation, existing with creation, and bringing forward by the very nature of perceiving the new world. The new world is just a word, but it comes into existence through your own awareness. Yeah, nothing exists without our awareness. We understand that, yeah? Otherwise, it's concept. It's just words that we said. We are the vehicles of that which we call perfection. That's what we call utopia. That's what we call the new world. Everything. We are the very existence of that now. And by being that, we receive ourselves anew, because we are the natural awareness of the creative existence of the new world. We are the natural awareness of the creative existence of the new world. So, and here it's important to really stay for a second in it, because we are all individual entities, and sometimes in the individual entity that we're coming from, in dualistic experience of ourselves, we are all in some way in the presence of our own needs, our own wants, our own perceptions, our own everything. And here is a little bit different, since we are now in the presence of creating the new world by the very nature of the presence in which you are existing. It's important sometimes to recognizing that the whole world is changing because you are present now. So if the whole world is changing because you are present now, what would you change in the world? Maybe you spend a second or 1 minute or 2 minutes during the day and say, what will I change? And because whatever you decided that is going to change, since you are present, it has an extraordinary amount of power in the world. Because you are not wanting to change something because it's a good thing, and because you are a good person, or because it is spiritual. For the first time, you're changing something because you are in the presence of creation itself, and you are the God then that is determining the new world. What would you like the new world to be? So it's a lovely thing, because when you spend time in this greater picture, yourself rejoices. Because yourself was never self-contained inside of the little picture that we all thought of ourselves. The self always has been everything, but it has been self-contained through the history of our evolution and the personification of the individual self. And then that's what people have called the ego in the past, or whatever. Instead, we created this structural formation, the thought of ourselves. But that never was who we really were. That was the self-containment that we acquired in time as a result of the collective consciousness that we were existing in a particular time. For us, in a particular time has been whatever, this last 60, 70 years of your life. But in other times, it was the Egyptians, all the different civilizations were containing in a specific time the human self. And then the human self was relating in that particular time and in a specific formation called collective consciousness, collective human consciousness. This is the first time in the entire history of our human evolution that we are not inside of the collective human consciousness as an observer or as part of it. We are the creative part of the whole consciousness, creating a new world that is freeing the story of the traditional ancestry and brings it into a new level of intelligence, experience, connection, well-being for the whole human race. It's a big, big, big picture. The great perspective is divided in half. It's actually divided in three, but the first half is the perspective that is our human consciousness as it becomes free and the larger spectrum begins to understand everything that has happened, because now everything is like a movie that is in front of your eyes and you can see how it came to be. Everything from the great perspective in relation to the past is understood completely because it represents the whole story in front of your very eyes. So we are no longer observing the pieces of it. We are understanding how it came to be inside of that reality. So that's the reason, because we understanding how it came to be inside of that reality, we can really understand it completely and have no judgment about it, because it came to be in that reality as a natural unfoldment of its own consciousness. But now that we are in the great perspective and we see that part of it, now we have no judgment to it because we understand it completely. The self in us is everything now that we are finally connected to the whole. So what it means is that everything is an open book. And that's the reason that you don't have any judgment or you don't have anything in relation to that, because you understand it. Remember, everything that we are afraid of or everything that we have judgment of it, is because we don't understand it. Because if we are completely understanding it, we wouldn't, because we will understand how it came to be what that was. So the great perspective has that half, which is the human aspect of ourselves, which is exquisite too, because I'm fascinated now that I have recollection to my human ancestry. Everything fascinates me. Every time that I open a book or something, the Egyptians are part of my being. I said, oh my God, you know, I was that. I mean, it was part of me. So I don't see it anymore like something I see it in the museum or in a book. I said, oh, that was part of my existence. So myself in the bones of my being and the DNA has all the memory of that. So it has a lot of gift inside of my new consciousness. The new consciousness is like a holographic imprint. So when it appears in your consciousness, it's like a light that opens, and then you see many, many, many things at the same time. It's not linear. It's not going to go A, B, C, D. And it's like a picture that opens, and then you have recollections inside of your brain of many, many, many things. And they are essences that they are beautiful within yourself. And when you capture, when you regain them, maybe for 1 second or 2 seconds or 1 minute, it reinstates within you, at the core of your being, an energetic field that it was part of you, but you didn't know that you had it, that you have it. And once that happens, when you bring it out, your entire physical self rejoices, because it's recuperating a part of your subconscious self that now is becoming conscious as a gift to yourself. So this is the first half of the great perspective. The understanding of all things past, the understanding of all the ancestry. You just imagine about the ancestry. Just for a moment, think about the millions and millions of years in which the spiritual path inside of the Indian or the Buddhist tradition have taken us as humans. Can you imagine the people who have spent hours and hours and years in the mountains meditating always for us to be in the place that we are right now? In that time, they didn't know that we will come back in the physical existence. In that time, we thought that we will go to other planes in which they will higher consciousness. So the physical world always was considered to the place that wasn't very desirable, because remember that we call it samsara or lila. So now that we're back into, all those things are beautiful. Every time that you see a deity in any place, it's actually you. It's the memory of you for thousands of years ago that now has shown up for you to see it and be able to acknowledge that you have fulfilled that deity. And you and the presence of the deity are in a circle then, in which the moment itself becomes the third entity that honors the time sequence from thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago, and it makes it real in the present moment. Makes it real because you're bringing all the story and you rejuvenate it, if you may, or renew it, if you may, or honor it, if you may, because you honor that traditional expression that carry the remembrance of you and that you have fulfilled by you becoming present. So this is the first half of the great perspective. The second phase of the great perspective is a little bit not complex, but it's just that our nervous system, as I said, it is just beginning to become acquainted with this, like a computer program, if you may, that is cosmic in its essence. And what that means is concealed within itself thousands of inventions, thousands of understanding, thousands of created awareness, thousands of everything that is not yet here, but is already ever present within the eternal moment. Because the eternal moment is the containment of everything. We understand that. So everything that is futuristic, it exists here already. And we are perceiving it in relation to the specific specialty in which our consciousness senses itself as individual. Yeah, and what I mean by that, if your desire is to really heal, be a healer or understand the healing of your nature, you tap in that part that already in that particular cosmic sense is already resolved. Because in the cosmic sense, healing doesn't exist anymore. It's just the well-being of the physical existence. Healing only exists in the memory of our ancient self. The cosmic is already involved in the perfection of its own unfolding. It's not involved in trying to get the system to be able to function well. It's different. But it conceals stages, this cosmic sense conceals stages that will assist you in any way that you would like it. I can be healed by that consciousness in my mind, because my mind is beginning to comprehend concepts that they are based on wholeness, because we always have been linears in the concepts. My mind is beginning to comprehend now ideas and understanding and feelings of love that they are much, much, much larger than I experienced in my humanity. Because remember, in our humanity, love was divided in some way between us. You know, we love things more, we love things less. We have certain specific amounts of love for the things that they are nice to us or things that correspond to us. But we never really understood love completely as being everything. You know what I mean? We thought that love is something that we feel in our human experience. In the cosmic, no. Love is not something that we feel. It's something that we are. Because everything is love. It's the energy that we call life. Life has an energy, right? Because it is the union of all things in the universe. So it's the energy called love. So it's much larger than the human interpretation that we created. So we are just beginning to come into correspondence with that, because all of us are beginning to feel a sense of love that it was larger than what we thought love was. And at least this is what happened to me, and I'm not for sure that it's happening to you too. So it's good for you to put it in context, put those things in context, because, oh, I see. I'm beginning to really recognize that I am love. And it's kind of complex, because the state of love that we are is so open, so extraordinary, that if you enter the supermarket, everybody's going to freak out a little bit. You know what I mean? Because in the supermarket, everybody believes that they are themselves, and everybody is self-contained, because, you know, you can't let it all go in that sense. So we are just beginning to become familiar in the possibility that you open the field and be in the presence of love without freaking up everybody or thinking that you're crazy or something, in order not to disrupt other human beings. Because we know in our evolutionary self, we all created in a specific persona that it was self-contained inside of its own equations of feelings. So that's the way we did it to survive. So we created a specific formation. But now that formation is beginning to become open, so we are beginning to exude and be in the presence of love. So it's a matter of yourself giving yourself permission, because the divine would like to make you be in love all day long. But also it requires a certain kind of measurement, if you may, because you have to be able to open the sense of self inside of the circumstances, not to mold it to the circumstances, because if you do that, then you shut it in the system, but to allow this in your own intelligence and your own sense to do that, in order to assist everyone around and not to scare anybody, and to allow everybody to come into the presence of that love, so everybody partakes of that love. But you are the doors of that. So it's an important thing. So remember that the contemplation of being love instead of feeling love is a very important thing. So I said to you that then the grace perspective has a half that is corresponding to all the story of my ancient self, and have the other half corresponding to the entire cosmic experience of my now new present self. And then at the center of those two, and the third entity, is me. It's Martha, it's Ellen, it's Beverly, it's every one of us. All of us are in the presence of that. And that is the actual existence of the other two. Yeah, because one half is the mind understanding everything, the mind perceiving everything. But this is the you, the center you, that is actually the one that is riding the field of creation, riding the wave. Remember in the seventh dimension, the dimension of self, we said the self rides the wave of creation. A music, right? Wonderful. So, yeah, that was a wonderful thing. Thank you so much. That was lovely. So, riding the wave of creation. What does it mean, riding the wave of creation? So, it's a good place to, okay, I myself, Cristian, or I myself, because now you have to start deciding that every time that you find something that you put in together in your mind, that you are allow the mind to become present by your own attunement and by your own understanding and by your own consciousness and by your own intelligence. Every once in a while, you have to bring your name to it. You have to say, Martha, this is Martha. You know, this is me. Because otherwise, what happened that the mind, innocently, because of the past story, it will like to take you, and then you are in a concept again. And so you have to every once in a while, or as soon as possible, and every time that you go in, to bring it to your own name. Because remember that you are the one, you are the cosmic, you are the eternal, you are the one that rides the wave of creation. The other aspects that we're talking about, the past and the future, is the way that the mind can comprehend those two senses and can assist you to integrate it. Because the words that we have created in evolution are the very words that we have now to bring us the image that assists us to understand the totality of ourselves now. So then that was the third entity within the great perspective. The great perspective is a fantastic thing. It is the new consciousness. It's the same, but we call it the great perspective because it has a cognitive perception and understanding in yourself that allow you to know, to allow you to perceive that you know, understand, and feel everything. So one is the new consciousness, the other one is the great perspective. Yeah, and then the eternal moment, it will be like the riding of the wave of creation, because the eternal moment is the closest approximation to the instant in which the great perspective from the perspective of knowing everything and the great perspective from the perspective of being everything gets actualized in the present moment. That's what it means, 3 dimensions. We need 3 things to be one. So we need the entire memory of all things past, we need the entire presence of all things future, and then now, so they're all simultaneous. That is a great perspective. Yeah? And remember that the great perspective self-contained within itself the divine and the divine translator. Yeah, because the divine is the aspect of the great perspective that allow every single being to be able to start unfolding inside of their own experience in a way that it becomes perfectly for each person. Because otherwise it will be like very disrupting, jumping in consciousness into a maximum state of love, for example. It will be very, very disturbing. Yeah, all of a sudden someone awakening to an extraordinary amount of love is something that many people can even heart attack almost, because it's too much to be able to perceive. So the great perspective and the divine translator assists to modulate the volume in which the mind, the heart, and then the physical reality of every single moment unfolds, so we can all be fine. But if you decide that you would like to speed it up, it's not a good word, speed it up, but you would like to enlarge the system, all you have to do is say, I'm ready. And then once you're ready, then the downloading can take place into a larger spectrum for you, if you would like it to be. And then, but that implies that you're ready, really, because what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to have many experiences, and then you can be able to put them in context. And then if are too much, you can say, okay, I'm spending a few, 1 day or 2 days or 1 week and this one now until I integrate it. Because what you're really doing is like allowing the whole spectrum of your consciousness to receive all the pieces that correspond to the sphere that eventually is going to be able to function moment to moment as a continual basis in your being. But each of us have to, have the freedom to be able to do that, so we don't get overwhelmed, as I said. So returning to utopia a little bit, and then I'm going to stop and give the space back to you. Utopia is actually your heart, yourself. You are utopia. You are the idealism of life itself. Always you have been that. But remember that in the memory of our evolutionary self and the ancestry, we always thought that someday we'll get to it. Some of us thought maybe we'll never get to it. Some of us name it heaven. Some of us thought, oh, when I die, I'm going to go there. And now we are all in the moment of that existence, and it's unbelievable, unbelievable. So utopia has to do with your essence, as I said earlier, which is part of the great perspective, which is the essence of yourself that always have existed. You always have existed, and you will always be. And for the first time, you are in the presence of all of you. So then utopia has to do with the natural rejuvenation that is life, because now utopia is nothing other than the eternal nature of life. And then utopia is nothing other than nature itself, because nature is back in utopia. Just think about the time that we can spend just for a few seconds. I do that too. The mother principle, which is the nature of your body, which is the nature of the planet, which is the feminine principle of life, which was the form of the Garden of Eden, which is everything, because we are made of nature. My mother, everything, every part of my body, every molecule of my body is made up of nature. So just think about spending a few seconds healing the body. Healing the body is not the right word, but yet let's leave it for now. Healing the body will be allowing your energy to come into your system and inform everyone who's in the system that you are present. So when everybody becomes acquainted that you're present, that you are here, everybody having a great, great time in your system. Yeah, because they're all have been working by themselves before. Everybody, the whole system is trying to do the best they could, everything with their life, but they never had you. They never, because you always thought, oh, well, I feel this and I feel that. I go to the doctor, I take this pill, blah, 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 blah. But you were actually the surface of the human plane, but you never understood that you were everything, and the system that you are living is totally dependent on you, because you are the one who lives in the moment of life, in the actual moment, right now, in the physical world. So when you bring your body to that system, everything becomes very, very fantastic because it loves it. And then what's going to happen is that when you begin to really enter the utopia in that, your kidneys are going to come over and I said, I think that maybe you don't need to drink that anymore or whatever. You know what I mean? It's complex to talk about those things because we are no longer thinking about what is good or bad for me. It's just that the system, it begins to inform you. And when your system begins to inform you inside of your actual intelligence, you get it right away. You're not going to see, oh my God, it's going to take me a time to do it because I'm going to have to think that it's going to be difficult and I want to do it, but I don't want to do it. No, all that will disappear because once the system tells you something about yourself and you're present in the system, the change occurs instantaneously. So that's the reason I don't even wanted to call it a healing. Because the healing is the idea that something is going to get better that it wasn't good. When in reality, that getting better is simultaneous with the presence of you. Because then you know what you have to do. You want to drink water, sleep a little bit more, be surrounded by flowers, spend more time in love. I don't know, whatever is going to come to your mind, whatever you have to do, you have to. Whatever your consciousness come to the surface in you, it will bring you to that state. So you will go do that. Yeah. So then if we go back to the self, then the part of you are utopia because you are the presence of God. That's it. God doesn't exist without you. You will not exist without God. God is the center of three dimensions. It's the existence of all things. It is all things. So utopia is rules. It's it because it is the perfection that is the creator itself, that is you itself. Utopia is beautiful. So it's a wonderful word, you know, it's fantastic. So then if you go up into the 10 dimension, you go into balance, it's of course it's utopia, because it's the moment of existence. If you go to beauty, oh my God, utopia becomes fantastic because it becomes the light that you see. Everything is illuminated by the light that you see. It's beautiful. So you will begin to connect with that. When you see the light now in utopia, allow the light to heal you. Again, I'm using the word heal, but allow the light to inform you and to energetically make the circle within you, so that the light that is within you and the light that you see externally are one and the same thing. The light that is in you, because you're made of light, and the light that you see externally, the reflection of light, is the same thing. So you begin to be not only illuminated by life, but also, I don't know, it's complex because the language doesn't, all the language that we have, healing by light, you could say that, but you could say, yeah, we are healing by light. But then you understand that once you allow yourself to be healed by light, the distance between the frames has disappeared. So you cannot use that word anymore. You are the light of the world. Yeah, but in the meantime, if that needs to be said, I'm being healed by light, is a recognition, the external, internal, and a recognition that as it becomes simultaneous, then you are more and more in the riding the way of creation, which no longer witness anything. It is that very thing. It's difficult to talk about it because, as we said, the language that we use is always telling the story. And what we're talking about is the reality itself, not the story, the writing the thing itself. So anyway, and then we get to the last things, you know, the presence, which is the great perspective, which is utopia, you know, and then the consciousness and the unity and the crown, which is the moment of ascension. Utopia is ascension. So we are all ascending in utopia, and it's a lovely thing. So anyway, I would suggest for you, if you find any image externally that remind you of utopia, I would suggest that you take it and you put it in some place in your home. It may be a sunset, it may be a flower, it may be a picture of the universe, it may be a picture of you, it may be anything, a picture of anyone or whatever it is that you would like to make an image of utopia, because utopia doesn't have an image, because it's the very existence of its own existence. But if we create an image, it's good because it reminds you during the day that you are living in the realms of utopia. Yeah, wonderful. So I don't know, Nancy, if it answered that question, or need to answer a little bit more about anything that I have said, or you would like to expand or anything. What do you think? Oh, I don't know if Nancy can help.
Oh,
Yeah,
can you?
yeah.
It was perfect. I have to think about it. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to say, I have to, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, you have to contemplate it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the two halves that you talked about.
The three, yeah, the two halves.
Does one go slide over into the other? Kind of, you're one person. You could be both the first half and the second at the same time.
Yes, yeah, the three actually.
Oh, the
The
three.
three, the three. But it's good because it give you a perspective then. Because if I say just one, it's like you are inside of a field. Remember that one without three, it means nothing. In order for us to understand one, we have to understand three, because we are three-dimensional beings. We were created inside of the realms of three dimensions. The mind has evolved, exists inside of three dimensions. So one, it doesn't exist except through three. Once you understand three, then you understand one. And then
everything comes
go ahead.
Out from that, and it also comes back to it.
Exactly, because you are the one. Yeah, exactly. The free that we're talking about is you, of course, but the free parts of the you have three parts in yourself. It has The part that is the memory of your entire genetical existence is the part of you that has the memory of the entire cosmic voyage, and the part of you that is present in the now, making those three things simultaneous with life, so you can ride the way of creation as a being. This is something that it needs to be, it needs to a little bit contemplation, just a little bit, or a lot, whatever you want to, in relation, because as human beings, we never really thought, I as a human being never thought that I could really be all together at once in my existence. The farther that I went in the beginnings of my human remembrance is that, okay, to wake up, to be able to understand things, to be more loving, to be more creative, to love God more, and to prepare myself so when I leave the planet, I go into heaven, or whatever you wanted to call it, or whatever it was. So that was the story inside of my human existence. Now it's different because I understand the story that it was a part of myself, but also I part of the other part of the story, which is the entire sense of myself. And then I understand, I became present within me, so I began to see that the whole thing was a beautiful, beautiful story of a voyage that allowed me within my mind, within my heart, and the physical existence to be able to partake of the moment of creation. So my mind can be cosmic and human at the same time. My heart can feel love for all things and really be the love that is the entire universe. And then the physical existence is not just only my life in the planet Earth, but it's my life surrounded by stars in this infinite universe that is now also simultaneous with myself, from which I am regaining an extraordinary amount of memory that I already have in my holographic imprint. Because who I am, or who we are, is the holographic imprint of the universe. So everything is coming present into yourself in a way that you can manage, as I said, through the divine and the divine translator. But you begin to get the picture of it. Yeah, I'm sorry.
What you call the memory? What you call the memory?
Yeah, memory.
Yeah, what you call it is about the past, or is it about the renewed memory for past, or the now? Is it? You know what I'm asking?
Okay, yeah. I think so. I'm not sure, but let me find out what it is. And what I'm saying is that we have the memory of all things past, yeah, because we are the genetical makeup called human.
Yeah.
And inside of the human, you have the entire biological existence of all things. But now we have the memory of all things future, because everything already happens in the whole picture. That's a little bit complex. That's why I need you to spend time.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
That everything already happens. We are already in the realms of God. So everything has happened. Everything is one inside of the entire existence of creation. It's no longer the future as we humans have called it or thought about it. So the entire futuristic existence of this being called Christiam is already happened. I am just now beginning to experience that which already happened and making it real in the physical world, if you may, since I'm living in the planet Earth, making it real, those things that they are already coming into the present moment, but they are not futuristic that they're going to happen in that time. They're already ever present. And so the entire past and the entire future is a memory of my own self that I am coming into correspondence with. And I'm becoming present with the memory, and then in the presence of the memory, I am in the realms of creation, making the future. It's okay to use, it's complex to use the word future now, because future is not something in this side of the spectrum. Future is the whole picture. Yeah, remember that in evolution, we thought if this is the center, this is the past, and it goes this way, and this is the future, it goes this way. But things don't work that way. That was the way that we innocently, two-dimensionally, we interpreted. In reality, the past is a sphere, and the future is also a sphere. So I'm inside of a greater sphere that is existing inside of all things, renewing itself as the forever presence of the future, but in the present now.
So
Forever presence
it's all three now. Everything.
now. All three.
Memory and all the future is the now.
Yes, all of it. All of it's in the now.
That's what I was going.
Yes, all of it's in the now. Yeah.
I have a question. Can
Yes.
I talk?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And also I'm noticing Bonita and Grace, it seems like they were talking and they wanted to say something, but I'm hoping that
So
this is more interactive.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. It's all for you today.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
the question you said, I am ready, but bringing forth the creation with direction and with thinking about manifesting, are you saying that we don't even have to think sometimes, that this is just going to happen as long as we live within this frame of utopia?
Yes.
You know, you get up in the morning and you have that feeling, okay, I am ready and I am in utopia, and then everything just happens, but you don't really have to keep thinking and manifesting. And I want, you know how with the creative energy, you can make and manifest certain things, but then is it to the point now where we don't even have to think for better? It just happens and we're just in that.
Yes, absolutely. You just say it perfectly, because that's what it is. We no longer have to think about anything, but what we are the perceiver of that perfection. So it's not like we are like, let's see, like open, like a blank state. No, everything is happening naturally by the moment of your life. You are in the presence of utopia, but then your cognitive self acknowledges something, and he sees, oh, I see it. This is beautiful. This food tastes wonderful. The colors, whatever is coming to you, you become the recipient of that, and then you put it in the context of utopia. And then when you put it in the context of utopia, your mind already synchronizes it with yourself, or the great perspective, whatever way you wanted to put it. But the whole idea is that you're no longer living your moment thinking that you have to do something to make it better. Because if you do that innocently, you won't. Because you are projecting the very confusion that the moment is existing in it, that you think that you have to make it better.
Yeah,
judgment. So, exactly. So, well, you know, that's you going back to the same, innocently to the dualistic mind that wants to be in control of everything. Mm-hmm. So, but it's not that you are no longer existing and you are like a zombie and not here. On the contrary, you are in the presence of utopia. You know what that is, and then you know that everything is being taken care by the very energy that is the riding the way of creation. Mm-hmm. Because you see, when we said they were riding the wave of creation. Now, riding the wave of creation would mean that I'm riding the very moment of atomic existence that is creating perfection among all things. So that is the moment in which my consciousness and your consciousness is living now. It's living in the moment of creation, which is a perfect design, the design of perfection, of unity, in which every single being is coming into the correspondence of that, no matter what. No matter what's occurring, every single being is coming into correspondence with that. So you, for the first time in your life, you can live instead of having to do something.
Don't judge.
Yeah, it's a big relaxation. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Because whatever you're going to do inside of the presence of life, it's going to be beautiful. Because whatever you're going to do, it's going to be wonderful. So you don't have to worry about anything. All you have to do, if there's anything, just to be present in the beauty and the majesty and perfection of life. And recognize that you're in the presence of eternity. Eternity is a fantastic word. Remember that the entire history of evolution was based in the idea of getting in touch with the eternal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Remember the entire story. But for the Egyptians, what the idea that eventually someday, when the time comes, their body that they have been preserved will come back to life again. For other people, it was eternity means the perfect proportions of the Greeks. For other people, because eternity means the idea that you're in love. Every time that somebody became in love in the history of time, they were connected to the moment of eternity because they were free from being entrapped inside of their own selves. That's what being in love means. You know what I mean? That you open your field and then you are in somebody else's life. That's the reason when you're falling in love with a child or your children and everything, is that your field enlarges to a larger field. So that is what we consider to be eternal. But eternity, it was a fantastic thing. If you spend a little time sometimes and contemplating what happened in the history of evolution and everybody for the search of eternity. Remember that every single guru that ever existed sit in the meditation to find eternity.
What's the difference between eternity and infinity?
Infinity has to do with infinite space, traveling into infinite space, something that it has no boundaries. And eternity is something that is continual, that is ever present.
So don't the two go together when you're looking, when you speak about this, doesn't they go hand in hand?
Yes, especially because eternity doesn't mean that you stop traveling with your life and existence. So infinite, or the infinite, will be like the understanding that eternity, which is the evenness of everything, travels with the universe into infinity, because of the moment of life, it is creative and it will be eternal. It will go forever in our own experience. So life is creativity and an experience. So the infinite aspect of eternity is that the universe is expanding into infinity. So we are in the presence of life unfolding. We are not in a philosophical self-containment of mind. This is important to understand. A philosophical self-containment of mind, it will not allow you to be in the experience of your life completely. Because life is creative and philosophy are ideas about trying to interpret it and understand that. So that is the reason that infinity is the part of your being that it connects you to life, because you are unfolding into infinity. And eternity is the part of your life that even though you are unfolding into infinity, is always stable, always present, always with it, always ever present. Eternity is God itself. But you have to remember, no, excuse me. I'll give you the time back. You don't have to remember anything because you are eternity. But you can remember about eternity. But the reason that I tell you is that once you begin to become aware, more and more aware of everything around you, you're going to see it. Oh, this is an eternity. I am in eternity. Begin to become aware that you live in the dimension of eternal existence.
So the other question I have was when we spoke, I guess last spring, and you talked about the Father, the Son, Holy, the Trinity, right?
Yes.
So, and then we talk about convergence, right? And so when it comes to God, this is the vessel right here. Right?
Yes.
This vessel is me. There's no religion. I mean, this is it, right? So
exactly.
when I think of the Trinity and I think of me as a vessel, it all comes together as one unity.
Which is you.
Yeah.
The one unity, which is you. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So the Trinity is the one.
There's no division. It's all combined.
Say that again, please.
There's no division.
No, there is no division.
It's all
there's no division.
Harmony and combined.
Exactly. There is no division. That's the reason that we said that in order for them to have one, you have to have three. Because three is the one. Yeah, that was the holy mystery. The holy mystery that existed within the church was the Trinity of life. But we didn't know that the Trinity of life was 3 dimensions. We thought that there was the Trinity. But then when we begin to understand three dimensions, then we get to understand that in order for have three dimensions, you have to have three things. You have to have you, which is the observer. You have to have the very thing that you are observing. Yeah, like I'm me and I'm observing you. And then you have to have what my mind is creating about those two things, which is the third entity that allow me then to function and exist, life itself, the Trinity. So everything in our human experience is made up of these three things. We are the Trinity of life, not only in terms of religion, but in terms of existence. And then the total comprehension of the Trinity itself is in the 10 dimensions, because the 10 dimensions is the whole field that allows you to understand three dimensions and the oneness of it. Because three dimensions by itself, without the whole comprehension of the whole feeling and meaning of it, again becomes like a concept again. That's the reason that in the church we could never really understand what that was, because we understood there was the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. But so what? If it doesn't exist in the present moment for every single being, understand what that means in their own personal lives. So now that we are in the new consciousness, and the second coming is actually the fulfillment of all those things as well, we can understand that the Trinity is actually the three-dimensional nature of our consciousness. And the three-dimensional nature of our consciousness is centralized in ourselves and home. You are the kingdom of heaven. You are the Garden of Eden. You are whatever you want it to, whatever symbol that you have that correspond to the largest possibility in your imagination as a being that is whole is you.
So,
yeah.
So can we really look at that? Because remember, the convergence and the new consciousness had not happened. So really, when you look at religion, they were so limited because that had not occurred. But when you look at like the Catholic service during the Mass, they would say the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit would come together at that Mass as one.
And the
So
Eucharist.
they were trying, but they were limited because the new consciousness had not occurred.
Exactly. So we couldn't live it. We celebrated. It was beautiful. We celebrated. We ate of the bread and the wine, and we celebrated, and we celebrated the glory of Christ and so forth. But we couldn't live it. So we innocently, we went to the church, we did it, and we celebrated, and then we went to our own lives, and then we did the best we can. So now it's different because we are that very thing every single moment. We are the Christ. We are the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, whatever you want to call it, or the Trinity, and we are the existence of that. And we are the celebration of that dream, because it was like a dream, you know? So, and it was beautiful. The dream was beautiful.
And it seems like it's just just the understanding that brings the understanding.
Yes.
3 dimensions.
Yes.
That makes the one. And then the understanding from the 3 dimensions that the whole field of the 10 dimensions is, you know, is the mind of God, kind of.
Yes.
And I don't want to say kind of. And then, but we said, what was it? 1 equals 3 equals 10, and then comes back to itself. 10 equals 3 equals 1.
Yes, and then you are inside of the fountain of life. Remember the fountain of life? This is remember the fountain of life. You have the graphic. This is important for you to spend time watching this, because the fountain of life is one frame of movement. It's the frame of movement of life. It's the energy that emanates from our bodies, and it's the energy that we receive every moment as the centralization of life. So the fountain is a fantastic thing. So the fountain descends from the top all the way down, and then as it descends from the top, it ascends to the top. It ascends again. Yeah, but the descension and ascension are simultaneous, are not linear expressions. You see, so we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10 is the one inside of the infinity, and it represents the all. The 10 is the all from which the one exists. You cannot have the one without the all. But so the Trinity is the one, and then the 10 is the whole spectrum of consciousness in which the one that is as ourselves can live inside of it. But it's not that when the one appears, the 10 dimensions disappear. It's that everything exists as the fountain of life. And then the fountain of life, that's the study of unity in motion. Every single connection connects you to it. And then every single moment when you practice, you are inside. You are descending, you are ascending. The 6 directions of space are simultaneous within you. You are allowing the system, the mental, which is spatial, the emotional, which is energetic, the feeling of life, and the physical, which is the structural formation. They're all partaking of the same moment of 3 dimensions. And in the process of your practice, then the mind becomes the energy, and then the energy becomes the body. And as you practice with it, the integration of your being allows you to become more present and more present and more present until the moment that you are the fountain. Your body is the fountain, and then your inner, this is the body, but the energy that it comes every single moment to embrace you is the fountain as well. The fountain is inside of you, it is outside of you, and you are the center of the fountain itself, which is the center of life. So it's good to have this graphic if you can.
I don't have that.
Have it. Oh,
I
yeah.
don't have it.
You have it in the
You
book. Don't you have it in the book?
Yeah, you have it in the book, but I think that I gave you graphics. I'm sure the summit in Pittsburgh must have this graphic. You know what I mean? You can color it. You can put the 10 dimensions of the tree of life is the centralization of the fountain. And then the 10 dimensions exist within the fountain. Everything exists within the fountain. The background of the fountain is the flower of life. Remember that I show you the flower of life is the representation of all physical form. Space is where the background of the fountain of life. And then the movement of life is actually the renewal that exists within the natural creation that exists as life. You know? So spend time with it because it's lovely. And remember that you are the fountain. You know, all the centers within the fountain is when you practice, you know, everything that you practice, you're always inside of the fountain. In order for us to be able to understand that the fountain is a continual experience within our life from which we give and receive ourselves as love. And you can say the give and receive itself as life or God, whatever you want to call it. But actually it's love, because the energy of love is the energy in which the universe is expanding into infinity. It's the momentum, the primary mover. Remember, for something to move has to have an impulse. It cannot just move in a void. It has an impulse. So the impulse of existence is love. It always has been. And now, for the first time, we are back into the impulse of existence. So we are in the realms of love. It's fantastic, the realms of love. Because everybody loves you and you love everybody, you know. And even if you think that somebody doesn't love you, it's momentarily, because eventually they have to, because they are loved. You know what I mean? So you don't have to believe in anything about, because you can understand that love is love is love is love. You know that it was this gentleman, it's called Luis Miguel Miranda or something. You know who this gentleman is that wrote this fantastic play? That it was called Hamilton. You know Hamilton?
Hamilton,
Yes.
yeah.
Hamilton, you know? Remember this man, this gentleman?
Miranda.
He's the one who said, love is love is love is love. Actually, he said, love is love is love is love. Yeah, he said it 4 times. And he understood completely that love is forever. It's not like love. It's love is love is love is love. There was another lady, remember that it was famous in the 60s or 70s, that said, a rose is a rose is a rose is a rose. Gertrude Stein. She also understood that everything was what it was. It was itself. So anyway, this is wonderful. Being in the realms of love is fantastic. So any more questions? How are we doing with time?
I think I just wanted to say that the practice is really astonishing. when you are when you are connected. It's kind of strangely way different than what I've experienced in the past. And so just the connection with the words and all of this that has transformed the consciousness that I perceive, because I think that's the perception is I mean, everything is there, but I have to be able to perceive it, you know? And so, or maybe not even perceive it, but just to be able to start to gleam it,
To be with it. Yeah, yeah. The practice has something that is very, very extraordinarily important. The practice, it has the intelligence that is the self in you. So the intelligence that is the self in you, that it says, okay, I am putting myself inside of three-dimensional space. That's what you're doing with the fountain. Then as I'm moving, I'm coming and going at the same time. The movement is coming inside of me and it goes outside at the same time that is happening. I'm moving in gravitational expansion, which is my center of gravity is constantly changing. I'm uniting the flow that is always existing. I'm learning that the flow is let me see what the word, that the flow, it dissolves the sensation of the biomechanical nature of the body.
Yeah.
That's a trap, because as you become practice, you understand that you are not sensing the skeleton. No, the movement is before you sensing the skeleton. So sensation is being erased as a physical constriction within you.
Yeah.
So that's another form of in which the self utilizes a space and flow to move the skeleton. So it doesn't move the skeleton and then becomes energetic and then you have space. No, it begins with the union of the three things. It begins with the space because you're placing yourself three-dimensional. It continues with the energy because you're coming within and without through all the different subtleties of the movements. And then the physiological nature of the structure becomes free because it doesn't rely on pressure. It connects inside of this fabric of a structural energy in which you are the closest approximation to life, because when you're connected to life, the physiological part of your being disappears as a contraction. Being alive and being energetic means that you're no longer bound by yourself. It's the lightness of your being. So
and I didn't realize that would occur by me having more consciousness. You know what I mean? About the moment. I didn't realize that would be the, you know, where it would go. But I thought, okay, I'll experiment with this. Now I've got this new consciousness. Okay, now we go practice in this way. And it's totally wild. It is.
Yes. Yeah. The reason is because you started with the movements. We started with the movements, and then now the consciousness is the other side of the movements. And so you are the two sides of it. The consciousness and the motions have merged inside of themselves. So then at the center of that merging, you have appeared. So every single motion that you do, every single connection, it's not an exercise anymore. It's a definition of your own center. It's a definition of your own feeling. It's a connection inside of yourself. It's a clarification of the vertebrae. It's everything. And it's fantastic because you completed the circle, and we completed the circle. And we did it. It took a long time. You were part of it. We did it together, because when we started in Pittsburgh and when we started in the center and everything, we started with emotions. And then remember the dimensions came. And then remember the 10 teachers came. Remember the 10 teachers that we talked for a while and everything. All those things came. But then the dimensions were just the beginning. Now the dimensions have taken a larger comprehension of the different aspects of themselves, of the self. So the whole spectrum of consciousness is the same as the physical unity of yourself. So you completed the circle. So when you start practice now, say like, I'm completed the circle. The consciousness is the same as the movement. So what does it mean to practice that inside of that field? And then you have many clues in unity and motion. You have the 10 principles. You can, so then if you go, if your practice, you said, okay, today I'm going to practice gravitational expansion, which is the last principle. Or today I'm going to practice riding the wave of creation, which means that I'm not going to stop at any time. Today I'm just going to practice only in defining every single connection, so I can pass through and then become the first, from the connection, the first connection that connects to the path. Where does it take me and where do I complete? Today I'm spending time only in the definition of the connection and how it unfolds to the next place in the connection. And again until you're clear. Okay, this is as far as I can go today. Wonderful. Yeah. So then today I'm going to spend time with the delicate heart. What is the delicate heart? Supposed to be a place that my arms are uniting the lower part of my being, which is earth, if you want to, with heaven. So what's the point that connected my spine and then take me to infinity scale? Where is that point in me that I'm cognitive at the same time that I am in the center of a space, in which my arms don't raise up in my shoulders, but make a change inside of the socket joint, so the polarities of my heart can continue through the motion. So this is something, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
The other day with Carolina, we were talking about it, that, in the fountain of life, when you start the fountain, the first movement, the giving and receiving, is actually the center of your hip joints. So when you open your arms, you're just not opening your arms, you're opening from the structural formation that it take you to God's heart, and then it will take you to central heart. And central heart is the Trinity. Is the right and the left side of your brain, centralized by crown, is actually consciousness, unity, and light. Is the point in which the whole of your cell is open. And it's a point that you pass through. And then if you feel like it's tensioned, you can let it go, relax. Okay, now I need to come back again, and I need to find it as an energetic connection, not as a structural connection. And then find it. And then once you find it, you're going to, the back of my neck, pressure in the back of my neck. So it will inform you, I need to release the back of my neck. The part of my brain is not connected yet to that connection. So once you begin to practice inside of that, the practice becomes divine, because it is yourself bringing yourself out at the same time that the outside coming in. You are uniting all parts of your being. So it's beautiful, I'm suggesting that but Ellen, you're right. That's what it is. Yeah.
I mean, and the experience, sometimes it's good for me to not be thinking, but just to experience.
Yes.
And I never really have done that a lot. I've been of course you go into the flow, but it's a different sense of thought now.
Yes.
It's not I have to think of this because I know the movement. So now I can experience it in a whole different realm of that three-dimensional space.
Yeah, now you're in the realms of awareness instead of the realms of thought.
Awareness,
Yeah, awareness is wonderful. So, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So the practice is wonderful. So I suggest for you to spend time with it. And sometimes I suggest to you that when you're in bed and resting and contemplation a little bit before you get up or something, just go, okay, the 10 principles, the 10 connections, the 19 connections, what are they? What is the path of balance going to some place to another? So find out if your mind can really envision the practice. If your mind can envision the practice and you can see yourself doing the practice, then you know the movements for sure. That's the way that you know. If you have a picture in your mind, then okay, now I'm going through the 19 centers, I go to infinity scale, I'm descending, I'm going to touch expansion, I'm going to get to crown before I start, so your mind it's like a movie that you have it will help you. And the awareness of your mind, reenacting the movements, it is the same than the practice. It's amazing, because all there is the mind in that sense. You know, it will help you enormously. You know, sometimes the movements you can just contemplate them, see them. I see a wonderful kitchen there in the screen. And it's, oh, how lovely! I love it. So, darling, are we okay? How is everything?
It's 9:30.
Yeah, it's
Almost 9:30. Well, we got 2 minutes.
2
I don't
minutes.
know what people
Okay.
want or where we are.
Yes.
I'm satisfied tonight. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Just keep asking questions. Let's keep questions, not asking questions. Allow your mind to surface and show you, because you are the answers of any questions that you're going to have. But remember that when you share the questions, we are creating a common understanding of principles, ideas. Ideas is not the word. Principles, terms. We are developing a new language in which the mind can function and can begin to express inside of that reality. Because eventually we are creatures of relationship. So we will be, I can see more and more people that I'm encounter that really actually are ready to talk about these things. A little bit, you know what I mean? Because everybody feel it in their own way and they have their own words for it. But when they begin to understand that is a way that we can share those words and we can talk about the same thing, we all becoming very, very excited, because for the first time, we have a language that corresponds to ourselves. It's not just only our personality that we're talking. Because most of the time we're talking from the perspective of personality. Now we're talking from the perspective of self. So it changes everything. Yeah, we are in utopia, the world. So, darling, I love you. It's fantastic. Next time that we get together, I'm going to talk about eternity. So, except if you want me to change the subject into whatever questions, Lois, I'm going to send you this paper in a couple of days to everybody too. And remember that you can continue with the questions in the internet, that we are all connected, that we are celebrating. Remember that we are in celebration and we are in fulfillment. Just because we talk about utopia today and the great perspective, everything is still existing within the whole mind. Okay, I love you. Have fun. Everything is wonderful. I love you so much. Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Thank you, darling. Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Ciao.
Good
Nancy,
night.
I love you.
I love you, darling.
Ciao, ciao.
Oh, crazy.
That's sweet. I love you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Thank you, darling.